Welcome to Whole Lot of Wolves, episode 16 of season 3. We're your hosts. I'm Joshua Buckley.
I'm Paul LePage.
And joining us again in New York, it is Alex Patakis, our great producer. How's it going, Alex?
Hanging in there, guys. How about you?
Well, not too bad. Not too bad. We are celebrating our World Series champion Houston Astros, Paul. Woo!
Woo-woo.
You guys in New York are not celebrating a championship, I'm sorry to say.
The whole Northeast hates you guys.
No,
right
that's
now,
okay.
So
they hate us because they ain't us, yo.
Yeah.
And then coming back to us from Florida, Mr. Alex Winter, which is I always find it humorous that you're in Florida where there is no winter.
Yeah, that's kind of the it's kind of the thing. It's when they say winter's coming. It's just I'm coming in there, not anything in cold weather. It's palm trees instead of blazing winds. But at least the East Coast, you have good American football teams with it there at the moment. While the Texans are not looking that great. Anyways, yeah,
we don't have a pro football team.
Yeah, we don't talk about that.
We don't talk about that. Well, guys, that was a frustrating way to start our Saturday again. Scored 2 goals. Yay.
Yeah.
Semedo has a brain fart. Boo. We ended up giving up 3 goals and losing. Double boo. Paul, break it down here. It was tough. That was tough.
Everything about that game had a horrible air of inevitability about it. Mm-hmm. Right from the get-go. We just felt like it was one of those games where we'd start off and look to get a little dominated, and we started looking a little shake at the back. It wasn't gung-ho from us at all. It wasn't starting out on the front foot. And it was a case of, when's that first goal going to go in? And that happened, but give them their credit with the comeback. And Guedes must have been taking something performance enhancing, because I didn't even expect anything to come from his break for the goal. At one point, expecting more for him to take the foul than anything. So to have that type of goal, to have him score and the finish was fantastic. It was like, where have you been since the start of the season? And then even when we get the rub of the green and we get a favourable VAR call, you at the moment, you've got no doubts that Neves is putting that in the back of the net for 2-1. So you're thinking, oh, great, you can really build on that. But never at one point did really stamp our authority on the game at all. And it just seemed to me that Brighton had it figured out perfectly, that space between midfield and attack. They just had the players that were dropping in there and causing us all types of trouble. So the equaliser really wasn't that much of a surprise. And then there we go with the sending off as well after that. And I think the inevitability comes full circle in that even when we went down to 10, it never seems that we're that team that can go backs against the wall and really dig it out and come away with a point, you know. And I was just waiting for us to concede, and actually quite surprised that it extended all the way into 80 plus minutes for that to happen. But at no real point, there was no real excitement to think, oh, we could get something here. We could really dig in. We could put 9 men behind the ball and leave someone up front and get them on the break. There's just nothing like that. There's no feeling. There's no spirit that we're the type of team that can claw something like that back and go on and get something out from a game.
Alex, what happened to our defense?
Cody, of course, is a big, but in terms of our defense, even if we had kept those guys, we're sort of aging, and we need to revamp our defense. Semedo is, he's been focused on the World Cup the entire season. He's not been he's not been really wanting to put in any effort. And Johnny just, I mean, when you go through 2 ACL tears, it's hard to come back to anything like he was. Our defense is they want to try and score goals and try and be on the front foot, but we don't have the people to really, I mean, score goals. I think the reason why Geddes was able to score that goal was because he was a bit off balance and didn't have time to think about the shot. And so, yeah, it's and I think part of it, instead of sitting back and countering, which is what has been a lot of our success in doing. And I understand that we needed to learn to switch on to the front foot and try and do that. But we've, in doing that, have lost the ability to sit back and defend. And we can only attack while also having our attackers not being able to score any sort of goals. So it's a horrible combination, pressing front where they can't score goals, and then all the men are up in attack, so can't really defend in time. And I'm hoping Lopetegui can sort of rectify that a bit, but it will be a long couple months of the World Cup for sure.
We'll go back to Geddes, but I think I really like the point you brought up about Semedo. And we had talked about this last week, Paul, as far as like, why is Semedo kind of in and out of the lineup? But Alex brings up a great point that he hasn't just been focused on Wolves at all. Maybe it's been all World Cup to him. Do you think there's something to that?
No, possibly, even to the extent of if his lack of form or lack of productivity has had an adverse effect on him getting a call up, has that really lowered his confidence and his whole outlook? He seems to me to be quite a stringy player. So when it's going well, he looks a world beater, and then when it's not, he looks League Two, and it was League Two on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
And no, I mean, we've kind of seen when he was at Barca that he wasn't great in a back four. I think he was a good fit when we had the back five, but now that we've gone back to back four, it's pretty clear like he's not that guy. Like, he really right back all year has been the biggest weak spot of the back four. Alex, do you agree? Do you think maybe if we had a right back who was really good at defending, maybe that would solve a lot of issues here?
I mean, I think that would. I mean, a lot of it, I mean, when you have Neves basically playing as a third defender in a lot of the games, and not as much this game, but playing as a third defender in a lot of the games, it's just, I feel a very defensive right back would really hold well. Someone who can really, someone who can really organize the defense, because I don't think that there's any real leaders in our defense at the moment. It's now Cody was not the best defender, and I think he, in terms of just purely defending ability, he was not worthy of the starting lineup going into the season. But it's just they haven't found someone else. No one else has stepped up to really fill that type of role. And I think if you bring in a steady veteran right back, would I think be good at defensive fullback. Yeah. So.
I think with just mentioning Cody, I agree with you 100% that as an out and out starting centre back, may he have not been as active this season to start with, yeah. But I think if we were in the predicament now and he was here, he'd be starting with one of Collins and Kilman, because
I agree with that. Mm-hmm.
And even actually, I'd even say not only Cody would, but probably Saiss as well, as someone who has that experience, who has that working knowledge of a back four. I just think those two to me now are looking a little too similar. And I think Collins is going to be a great centre back in the future.
Too.
I think he's going to be an absolute stud, but we forget that he's 21.
Yeah.
And that's really showing. And when you are backs against the wall, if you are in a relegation scrap, you do need that older head on the shoulders. It takes a special player to do the job that we need doing at the back. If you're 21, 22, that age. Kilman's the same, you know, you can talk that they even mentioned it in pre-season, and where they're trying to do it to build his confidence, to say, oh, he's captain material and he shows captain qualities in a different way than being vocal. He does it through his performances and everything. Were they just really saying that to try and talk him up a little bit and give him that confidence? Because to me, it seems that, again, he could be quite at risk of a real form drop-off based on his inexperience. And that's the worry for me at the moment, is that we've got no real fallback. We've got no one that could come in and give either of those a break, which, as younger players playing centre-back in the EPL, you probably need from time to time.
I find it interesting. I feel like Kilman hasn't been the same since there was the whole England national team stuff that really started popping up. I feel that kind of got in his head. I find it very interesting. If you look after the games, a lot of times, who's the guy? Neves is obviously speaking up, which he should as the captain. But we've kind of thought Kilman was going to be captain in waiting. I actually think it's going to be Collins, because who's the guy that's always talking to the reporters, always really dropping truth bombs, always going to the supporters? It's Collins. I kind of feel like Collins has stepped into the role that we expected Kilman to step into. What do you think of that, Alex?
Yeah, I mean, I really feel Collins. I mean, he's definitely an emerging center back. Is the great thing. Kilman has not been the same. I mean, I don't exactly know his whole Ukrainian history, but since the conflict sort of started, he, like, at the end of last season, he was not playing a lot of games, and I mean, he was not one of the ones that sort of was very vocal, went over and fight with, but I think that might have affected, and also that might be why he's trying to hide his voice a little bit too, because of those political tensions with basically his English heritage, his Russian and Ukrainian heritage, and all different things. So it's a bit of a tough back. But yeah, Collins is really that leader. And I mean, you have, even with like the veterans that you have, I mean, Diego Costa is, I mean, veteran Champions League experience, but not a leader with that. It's as shown by the stupid red card a game ago. There just hasn't been, and I think Collins is really trying to step up to that, but he hasn't basically hasn't found his right footing yet. I think more wins would help his confidence a little bit more, but Collins is trying to be that guy. Yeah, certainly. Mm-hmm.
Man, Alex is bringing some great points here tonight. Bringing the heat. I love it, about the Ukrainian Russian conflict. That's good. Okay, well, let's talk about a little bit of the positives, though, and that was Guedes, who made an appearance and really looked great. Even taking away that goal, he still looked good. But it was nice, Paul, to see somebody that didn't get like a fingernail touch to him and then just collapse. It was nice to see him keep his balance, keep going, and get that goal, because as we've seen, drawing penalties is no sure thing.
I think that goal, to me, highlighted that there is some potential there, that there is a talent. And it was like a bigger and tougher version of Trincao, where you did have all the skills and the ability, but Trincao may have taken a foul, or, you know, not had the kind of upper body strength that Guedes can display. So I think it's exactly what we're looking for in that type of signing, to be in that particular position, and that's where we could see a genuine goal threat from. So hopefully it's the start of many more.
Am I correct in saying that if that was Neto or Podence in the box with that ball, Alex, they would have gone down like there was a second shooter on the grassy knoll?
It would have, and Huang to add to that as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, they would have done, Neto and Podence would have done a few step overs, then tried to go down to the ground. And I mean, getting that, I mean, just put the ball towards the net and crazy things happen instead of just trying to find every single perfect angle. Like it's just actually just going for it, and I'd like to certainly see more of that from Guedes, and as he did moving forward. Yeah,
Just anybody test the goalkeeper. That's,
yeah,
you never know, and I felt
Yeah.
like that's what they did. They tested the goalkeeper. I mean, even the ones that weren't going in, they were at least trying them. Obviously took that 2-1 lead, Paul, with that penalty, which I don't know why that took so long to see when a guy's flailing his arm up. You'd think we get called for Moutinho hitting him like under his armpit, but heaven forbid, like a blatant one doesn't go. Just a fantastic penalty. What were your thoughts like after we took the lead there?
I'd say at that point it was probably equally deserved that we're in the lead, but I just always had that doubt that we weren't super potent behind it. And is it a confidence issue or just the informed players? But it never feels like when they get that lead, it really boosts them and they go on to have a period of further pressure. It's necessarily going into their shells, but I'm looking for them to build on that momentum of taking a lead and kicking on from there. And for whatever reason, it's not happening. Would that make a difference? Because it sure seems easy enough for them to cough up a goal anyway. So why not go a little bit more gung-ho in those few minutes after taking the lead and see if you can do real damage to a team? We've had it done plenty of times to us that one goal brings two and suddenly two brings three and it's game over. So I'd like to at least see a little bit more of an effort when it comes to really dominating a game when you take the lead.
Well, there was good news before the game, and that was we finally have a manager, folks. Julen Lopetegui is coming in. Paul, very exciting, obviously. He was, I think, a lot of people's number one choice. Then he turned it down. Then we went back to we seem to be, we're making jokes about the restraining orders, but this seems to be working with Matthias and now Lopetegui. Like, just keep asking. They can't say no forever, baby.
I think that restraining order gets diminished somewhat when you've got Uncle George behind the scene pulling all the strings. So
yeah.
that probably has something to do with it.
I mean, Lopetegui was Fosun's first choice all the way from the beginning. I mean, even before Walter Zenga came in, Lopetegui was the first choice for Fosun. And after, I mean, five years, finally getting him with it there, finally getting him is, I think, a big thing. And I mean, while Uncle Jorge helps quite a bit with that, I think what really helped with that as well was our neighbors Aston Villa getting Unai Emery, and sort of like, okay, it's not going to really damage my prestige that much going into a lower mid-table Premier League team. And I think that's part of what and hopefully I think it's giving him some administrative control over the team a little bit. While George Mendes will certainly go on ahead and and still yield a lot of influence. They brought in the former sporting director of Ibar, according to Liam Keane, the Express and Star reporter today with there, and he did wonders with them in youth on different things and keeping a very small budget team up in La Liga for many years. So I think adding Lopetegui, I think is going to help sort of establish a better structure than just Jorge Mendes, Scott Sellers, and Jeff Shee.
I think you're bang on. I think this, I get excited, and so I look back at it somewhat and think, well, where would have we been now if we'd have had Lopetegui from day one, in terms of him coming in, where the whole situation at the time meant that in effect that first season was a waste. It was only till Nuno came in. I get similar vibes that he's going to be that type of more of a manager, more of a controlling interest in the team and what goes in and around it in terms of staff and structure and all of that. So that's what gives me some excitement moving forward now with the rest of this season, that he's that type of manager that's going to have that approach, and he's got some status, he's got some history, he's got some gravitas. He's that type of appointment that people know who he is and what he's done previously, versus Bruno Lage. It was like, who? Oh, okay, he won the championship in Portugal, but that was it. Now we've got a stand-up international caliber manager again, and I think that gives it can build a lot of confidence going into the second part of the season for sure.
Paul, are Scott Sellers' days numbered?
Again, potentially in that structure, yes, but I think that he may still have some type of role and potentially a role that he's had some success with in the past, that there was never really much disputing when it comes to the development side of things and football operations. I think it's just a case that his particular role's called into question when it comes to being more hands-on with building a squad, player identification, and things like that. So if Lopetegui is more not necessarily hands-on, or if he's got a team in and around him that are able to give him the intel and help bring these players through, that they're identified correctly and they're fitting with his scheme, then I could probably see certainly a shift in that transfer committee that they talk about, that Sellers is a part of.
How about you, Alex? What do you think of his role going forward?
I mean, I think Scott has done very well with the academy. That's where he came up from, and the academy has continued to improve. I mean, we've beaten Liverpool's academy with so much more money and so much more back to back in the under 18s, and I think our academy is going very well, and I think Scott is going to be a lot more focused on that. I think it's going to be that same board structure that Wolves have had for the past couple seasons, where she, the commercial director, and everyone have sort of a conversation, but they're adding more football people than just Scott in there to try and shape it, from instead of just focusing on Wolves records or the new fashion line or different things like that, focusing a lot more on establishing that great football team and football brand separate from the commercial entities. And so I think Scott will stay around, but not nearly in the capacity that he is now.
Overall, Paul, how would you rate the hire? 1 to 10.
8. Structure, gravitas in the game, the ability to command that respect. I think it's right up there.
I would say around, 8 as well. 10 would be Jose Mourinho, or would be a Zinedine Zidane, or something like that. And that's like only really for like the upper echelon of one. So the 8 would work well. I mean, he was a former Real Madrid and Spain boss. I mean, the fact that we have someone with that, we haven't had someone with that type of claims since Graham Taylor, but that was a completely different time, completely different setup with that. It's been a while since we've had such a high profile manager, more high profile than Nuno or Lage, and someone that I mean, Sevilla did very well last year, and just a rough patch with this, and hopefully he can show what he's shown in other places and really succeed at Wolves. So,
Paul, I thought it was very interesting after the match when they were talking to Steve Davis, and he was very frank and on the record as saying, I've told Lopetegui he needs to come in and be pretty active in the transfer window in January and get some quality players. That's got to be pretty damning for the guys that are on the team right now.
To an extent, yeah, but then it's been a relatively quick flip-flop that he was talking them up so much when he originally took on the role. So you can look at it in a different light when you've been on the run that we've had under his stewardship. So is he wrong? No. And I think that we're in a position, hopefully, that with him coming on board in this role, he's here with certain conditions, and those conditions would be that there's going to be some backing in the winter to fill some of the gaps. And again, hopefully, I think with the types of relationships he looks to build with his players and really impart his way of doing things, that maybe there's some of his previous generals that may be coming in that have got some potential that could fit in with his style and formation. Because I definitely think it's needed. I put us in that distinct category of Newcastle last season, where they needed a new coach, but probably more importantly, they needed 3 or 4 really quality journeymen in the kindest sense that knew the league and could do a job. And they got that, and they're reaping the rewards of that investment last winter all the way through into this season still. So that's what I see happening at the Wolves, is that potentially we could have 2 or 3 that make a really significant contribution.
Alex, how much do you think Fosun will invest in January?
It's very tricky because Fosun itself, if you've looked at the different financial news, has to shed a bunch of assets, and and basically a lot of their stuff is junk bonds. So I think they'll unfortunately not do the $100 million that was spent in the summer in January, but I feel that instead of it being Fosun's investment vehicle thing, it's more turning into Guo's personal, like his personal team that he wants to go on ahead and put in that money for. So I think there'll be some smart loans and some guys in it, but basically in enough to try and set us up in a good position to finish 17th or better. And that's really the goal at this point. It's not the goal coming into the season, but that's the goal at this point in time. And so I feel that they will. Really, what they need, I think, is just quality bodies. Because even in the summer transfer window, while they did, while they did add bunch of different players, they also sold a bunch of different players, and our squad actually got smaller. And now we're hitting with injuries and different like that. And just having people to push the starters that are there right now, I think would be a big help to Wolves. I mean, heck, someone like Craig Dawson, who was was talked about there. I mean, the guys like that are what's the ensure we would at least the one big splash signing, but a lot more just guys that like can come in and push the squad to be better.
There was an interesting report from David Orstein that said Lopetegui was going to explore the possibility of negotiating a buyout with Anderlecht to bring Fabio back from his loan, which I think is smart. It would be, I feel like, cheaper than bringing in somebody new. Now, there's no recall clause, and Anderlecht just said they're not interested in letting him go. But Paul, money talks, right?
Yeah, I think stuff like that, where there's a will, where there's a way. Personally, I'm not it's a tricky one. I'd like to see what's out there first and explore those routes, because the worst thing that could happen in this situation would be like when we did it to Morgan Gibbs-White, who was showing really good stuff away, and then they brought him back in and he was flitting in and out of the team again. I'm not sure yet that, again, based on age and experience, that bringing back Fabio now and saying you're the guy or you're going to be a major contributor is going to necessarily work, because from somewhere we've got to get a 10 to 12 goal player for the remainder of the season. I'm not sure that it's him yet.
What do you think, Alex?
I mean, while it will be cheaper to bring in Fabio, so I do not want to take him back from loan from Anderlecht right now. I mean, we've done damage in the past trying to recall people from loans and then the stuff. But if they're comfortable in a situation like Fabio is at Anderlecht, I don't think we should really mess with that. And when we already brought in, I mean, Diego Costa as that 1 year kind of thing. Obviously, he's not proven to be the answer so far. But I mean, bringing in someone on a loan or a one that has a high wages, the crazy, I mean, but I think one that could be a real possibility just because of the situation is Cristiano Ronaldo coming in on a 6-month loan.
Whoa!
He's not playing at Manchester United, and I don't think any of the Champions League clubs are really going to go after him. And he'd get a guaranteed start and a guarantee. Yes, the wages are a lot. Yes, the different like that. But I feel something to sort of showcase that, yes, you're going to play and you're going to be the focal point of that offense, which is what he can't do at Manchester United, but he could certainly do at Wolves. I think it's out there, but I think it could happen.
Paul won't even look at the camera. He's laughing so hard.
Yeah. I know it's crazy. I know it is, but it's something that I feel it could happen, even though it's very unlikely to happen.
Just keep believing, Alex. That's all we want. That's brilliant. This is exactly the type of content that our listeners come here for. So,
yeah. See, Alex, you're dropping all these truth bombs. Tomatoes thinking the World Cup, Ukraine wars affected Kilman, and then you just slip in Ronaldo coming to Wolves on a 6-month loan.
Yeah,
you can't do that.
Yeah.
Paul, what are the chances of that actually happening? And you're allowed to go 0.01.
I think I've got a better chance of being called up to the England team for the World Cup.
Even with Uncle George?
Yeah.
I'd be curious as to what even the Wolves fans' reaction to that be. I could see a bunch of them going, "We don't want that twat." Am I right? Word for word on that, Paul?
Pretty much, yeah. So on the one hand, it makes completely no sense, but then on the other, it makes a ton. And if you had any type like that type of player in any other situation, it would be a complete and utter no-brainer. So yeah.
You know what though? If it happens, I am gonna ask all gambling advice from Alex because clearly he has like the almanac from Back to the Future too. I guess it would be the sticker book from Back to the Future too, with
Yeah, like the sporting almanac with the yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
I think a big part of it's gonna come down to how Raul looks in the World Cup, and he just flew to Spain to rejoin the national team. Here's another guy that's probably a little more concerned about the World Cup right now than us. Paul, what do you need to see from Raul in the World Cup to feel like he can contribute here in the second half?
I think we all know it, and we've all seen it. And I think we need to see that type of output again, regardless of tournament in effect. But it's whether he's capable. So it's going to be an interesting dynamic for sure. That if we do see it, can he come back and be firing on all cylinders, or is this a genuine swan song that is building up to and intends to go out on a high, even if that's leading to a move in the twilight of his career? But again, it comes down to experience and wiser heads and those that are willing for a fight. And would I rather have an informed Raul Jimenez leading the line to try and keep a team up for relegation, or would I have a Fabio Silva? And 9 times out of 10, I'd have a fully functioning Raul. It's just if we get him back or not.
That's a great point.
Yeah, I mean, what I really hope for in the World Cup is for him to try and be fearless. I think he's been. I mean, he's still great with the link up play and the creativity. But I feel that he doesn't he doesn't have the aggression that he once did, and that's really what I would like to see from him.
Yeah. We had a no stupid question from Noodlehawk on Twitter. Brought up some stuff with Lopetegui, which we've hit on, but he brought up a good question. Will they bring a better medical staff with them too? Alex, how important do you think that is based on all the injuries it seems like guys have been getting?
Yeah, it's I mean, I don't know necessarily it will be better. I did see from that same Liam Keane tweet from earlier today that they did bring in a couple new fitness staff, fitness coaches, and stuff like that, which I think will help things. I don't necessarily know they'll be better. We were great up until really this year in terms of our fitness and being able to manage that. And I'm hoping that things will get back to there. It's one I think, yeah, they do need to bring it, and I think it will get better. Just I don't exactly know it will be Nuno level where you can play a full championship season with only like 15 players in the for the entire season. And but yeah, I feel that we will have a bit more. I mean, a bit better health with those potential changes. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the big question: can Lopetegui keep us up, Alex?
I think he can. I think he certainly can. It's in terms of squad talent and different like that. I feel that we have enough to stay up, and especially since a lot of the table is pretty close. Like a 11 through 20 is pretty close in the table right now, and I feel that there will be enough to keep us up. It won't be pretty, but I feel that Lopetegui will keep us up in something like 15th, 16th.
Paul?
Yeah, I'm not skipping and jumping around and being gung-ho about it, and it's going to be an absolute. It's putting me off this World Cup even more because I just don't want it now. I just want to forget all about it, keep the season going, and ride off the momentum of him coming on board. But hopefully, we can look at that as a positive that he's getting this opportunity for like a mini preseason and help with the planning and everything. But I'm thinking along the same. I'm hoping that we're able to turn it around. There's all being well, there'll be 3 worse teams and probably 2 more that we're competing with that start to drop that I've not quite identified who those may be. But when you have the types of run that we did to close out last season happen to teams, then there is some flux in that league still. So you could have a team that's riding pretty high now, like a Fulham, for example, hit the skids and could plummet. So I think we'll be okay. I don't think it'll be pretty. I think he needs to certainly do some miracle work with the defense. But if he's able to put his stamp on that, I think we'll be okay. It'll be pretty hairy potentially. It'll be ongoing into the tail end of the season, perhaps. But I think we'll be okay. And who knows? Maybe it could be quite positive and we get a cup run or something.
Paul, what's the new goal? Obviously, we were thinking, top 7, top 8 at the beginning of the year. Is the new goal right now 17th place? Like legit.
It's got to be. And it's foolhardy to think anything else really, because it is just survive and anything else is a bonus at this point. If you're in the bottom 3 at this stage of the season, it's that there's a pattern there and that needs fixing. So you do have to take that 17th. If it's given to you now, take it, grasp it with both hands.
Same, Alex. 17th, new goal.
Team 17th. I mean, anything else is sort of a bonus. This is not sort of a season that will be looked upon fondly. And if we get 17th or above, we can just sort of wash our hands from it and move on following season.
Good times, guys. Good times. And joining us to talk about Saturday's game against Arsenal, which is going to be at 2:45 p.m. Eastern Time, 1:45 Central. That's longtime friend of our podcast and one half of the DU football show. It's Arsenal fan Sam Graham. How's it going?
Not bad, guys. How are y'all?
Pretty good.
Thank
Well,
you.
What a start to your season. 13 games in, top of the league. I mean, this has to be exceeding you guys' initial expectations.
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely ahead of schedule in what we anticipated from Arteta getting his feet under the table and lowering the average age of the squad and everything else. We're definitely exceeding expectations at this point.
What's been the real keys to this success, Sam?
Some of the signings I think that have finally bedded in, balanced the side, Partey especially. Getting his feet wet and really showing the dominance he has in the center of midfield. It also freed up Martin Odegaard, obviously, to create and do what he does best. And I think we're seeing what Real Madrid saw in him at 15 years old. I think we're finally seeing that potential be realized.
So this is the last game before the World Cup break. We kind of saw it with Liverpool right before Project Restart, how they had all this momentum and then kind of came a little bit down to earth. Do you kind of think that could be something Arsenal experiences as well with the break before Boxing Day?
This World Cup obviously comes at a very strange time with a lot of emotional baggage and physical baggage for the players. I think you could see if there was going to be another Leicester season, quote unquote, I think this would have been the year that you would see it. Obviously Holland's not going to be at the World Cup, but the rest of Manchester City is. What happens if they get hurt or on Boxing Day get hurt? That just paves the way for somebody else to sneak in because he can't do it on his own. That same goes for Arsenal, really. Same goes for a lot of those quote unquote big six, with multiple players going that, that could really shake things up and change the complexion of the league. Depending how far, our players go, it could affect, obviously injuries, fatigue, training time when they get back. I think there's only 4 or 5 days before that they come back. Should they make the final, maybe a week, something like that. Should England or France make the final, a lot of our players are there. So it definitely comes at a strange time. But if we can pull this off this weekend, it gives us a ton of momentum. And keeps that belief alive.
And back on to Saturday, Sam, do you think you'll be setting up any differently, playing away from home, or you thinking business as usual?
I'm thinking business as usual to at least start with. One thing Arteta has been pretty good at this season has been adjusting tactics mid-game and formations and things like that. He's also done pretty well rotating the squad and keeping everybody relatively fresh. So I expect us to start pretty much business as usual. The problem's going to be is this is a chance for your entire squad to impress Julen Lopetegui, who will probably be in attendance, but takes over next week, I believe, Monday next week, something like that.
Yeah.
So it always seems like we play you right when you get a new manager, and for the last 3 seasons, you've had our number anyway. Now we don't have a David Luiz to get sent off twice in the same season against you guys this time, so that's helpful, obviously.
Yeah, it's helpful for us, so we don't have one of our players nearly dying. That would be awesome.
Also positive, also positive news for Wolves. I think it's going to be a great game. What I worry for you all defensively, I think that you're going to start to figure out how to score goals again. But until Lopetegui gets his feet under the table, I am worried for y'all defensively. But I mean, like I said, you've had our number. You always score at least one against us, most of the time too.
Well, I'm glad you have concern for our defense because we do as well.
Yeah.
Hey, can we still get you to take Neto for 50 million pounds?
Probably not. I'd rather take Ruben Neves.
I bet you would.
Yeah. That is still in play, unfortunately, potentially.
Yeah.
So,
or perhaps a 5'4" back heel specialist in Daniel Podence. I think he would fit right in.
Yeah.
He could challenge Saka.
I think we're good on pacey. We're good on pacey wingers, I think.
You gotta throw us a bone.
Yeah. That's usually Everton's job, is to throw people 40 million pound bones. They did that to us with Iwobi, a couple others. So yeah, it's I say you go bark up Mashiri's tree, and you should be able to offload that no problem.
So Sam, before we finish, just let our listeners know how they can listen to you and the other Sam and everything that you do with the DU Football Show.
Absolutely. So if you like banter and you like the Premier League and the whole Premier League, come find us. We're at DU Football Show on all the social medias, and the DU Football Show on any podcast app. You can find us: Spotify, Apple Pods, Google Play, anything. We're on YouTube. We stream everything on Facebook, Twitch, Twitter. So check us out, and hope you like it.
Thanks to Sam Graham for his little preview of Arsenal. But first, before the Arsenal game, Paul, we have Leeds United tomorrow in the League Cup. Well, I guess people are probably listening to this. That's actually today. The game is on ESPN2 and ESPN Plus at 2:45 Eastern, 1:45 Central. Paul, my thinking is with how important it is right now to win EPL games, I almost say throw a bunch of kids out there for the Leeds game. What do you think?
To a certain extent, I think that's got to happen based on form as well. In that we got no Semedo, obviously. You don't really want to risk Johnny in this type of game, given there's one on Saturday in quick succession. So that puts an opportunity out there for a right back, and if that goes to a youngster maybe, or perhaps they go pretty solid and just stick Mosquera in there and try and go pretty big across the back line and see what happens. But I think even then you're going into the fact that the likes of Breno's already playing, so keep him going, I think, and then you may see an appearance of a Kim Campbell, because again they've got to be preparing and maximizing the minutes of the forward line, because there's not really, with Neto being out, there's not great depth there as well. So when you think about it like that, I think there could be some changes, and again with possibly some of the younger central midfielders coming in.
Mosquera and Toady starting, probably Aït-Nouri, right?
I mean, possibly
yeah.
I would. Yeah, I think Bueno, they try to keep it going. And I mean, honestly, I think putting in a lot of the youth players with the way that the senior squad's been going, I mean, it actually is our top squad at this point. There, I feel putting in Hodge, putting in Bueno,
Logan.
putting in Mosquera, who hasn't really had to show, or Totti, I feel would be a positive thing for Wolves, and I think we would have a shot at even getting by Leeds, even with putting out the kids tomorrow.
Yeah, this game kind of is irrelevant to me at this point. I almost don't want to stay in this cup because it's the smaller cup and because we've got bigger fish to fry. And I'm usually very go for the cup, but in this case, not so much. So knowing that results probably don't matter as much for the Leeds game. Arsenal game, huge though, and I gotta think the chances of us winning that are pretty slim, right, Paul?
I think so. We haven't got a ton of positives to really take on in there, and it is a sad reflection I find myself thinking about today, that Arsenal are typically, like what Sam had alluded to, had been one of those high-profile bigger teams that we'd actually always had a good record against for the most part since coming back up. And obviously they weren't of the status of the Arsene Wenger days, but they were still a big recognised name. But we'd always do quite well against them. And unfortunately, I could just see Saturday coming around and one-way traffic. To be honest, I'm not really looking forward to it. I think the opportunity they've got down their left-hand side against our right-hand side is scary, and that's what's given me big nerves. And it's really it's not if they'll win, it's how many they'll win by.
Yeah, Alex, I kind of feel the same way.
Yeah, I feel, yeah. I mean, I don't really expect anything from Wolves' game. I honestly think Arsenal will have a bit of a rotated side, and even then, I think they'll put 2 or 3 past us and not really have us give up much. I don't really think we're even gonna get only but a couple shots on goal the entire game. That's sort of the negative feeling that I had around going into that Arsenal match. But it's one that, I mean, totally different from past years, and I'm hoping we can get back to where it can be competitive with them again. But I don't really have any faith at the moment.
Good times, good times. Johnny started right back, I guess.
It's got to be. Just stick him there and say, don't do anything stupid. Just be defensive. If you are going to get any attacking threat down the flanks, that comes from Breno, and that could allow it to turn into more of a three at the back and Breno a little bit extended forward, and maybe that helps a little. But I'd be telling Johnny just to be really conservative and stick to defending and see if we can get something that way.
Now, who starts at winger? Because Guedes took Adama's spot. Guedes looked well. I felt like Adama looked good when he came back in. Do you think they maybe try and go Guedes and Adama together?
I'm not sure. It's even with Guedes down the right, I'm still not wholly convinced that's his best position. So it's a little frustrating that we are so far into the season and that's not yet fully been figured out. But still, we've got the conundrum that there's not a great deal of flexibility because we haven't got a proper number 9. So someone's got to play there as well. So that's looking like Wang. Hopefully we've put that any type of experiment with the false 9 being Pedence firmly to bed. So we really haven't got much options apart from that. I just think that somehow with the Dharma, it's potentially that a game where we'd really need him to be the Dharma we know and love, in that it's a big opponent that he could be a potential threat to them, and those are the types of players that we really need to step up if we're going to do anything. So would it be a luxury to start him if he's not going to be giving that output that we really need to do a job against Arsenal?
Do you think? Go ahead, Alex.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I'm hoping is, Adama, similar to a couple seasons ago against Manchester City, with he be the tackle focal point. And I mean, that didn't really work well in the end of the Brighton game, but I feel it will be that type of thing that will happen in the Arsenal game, trying to have Adama be that focal point and everyone just sit back and defend and hope for the best. So.
All right, guys. So let's talk a little predictions. Let's go to the board here. It was a whole bunch of zeros this last week, because both me, Paul, in our guest spot, all had draws, and Alex, you had a 1-0 Wolves win. You were feeling extra frisky last week, huh?
I was a little too frisky.
A little too frisky. All right, so let's start with the Leeds Cup game. Alex, what's your prediction for that?
I'm gonna be optimistic. I'm gonna go 2-1 Wolves, even though it might benefit us to be out of the League Cup. I honestly think that we'll get that sort of revenge win against Leeds, certainly. I think it's going to be 2-1 Wolves.
All right, Alex P.
I like that. I think multiple goals would make me happy, regardless of whether they win or lose, since it's kind of a little bit of an inconsequential game. That I agree with Alex. It might not be a bad idea to lose, but I think they end up winning as well. I'm gonna say 2-0.
Okay. Paul?
I was kicking around trying to be negative, and hopefully it'll turn out to be a positive, but I think I'm just going to confuse myself that way. So what I'm going to go with will be 2-2, but it seems there needs to be a winner on the night. We'll win and go through on penalties, and that will bring a little bit of a momentum that I won't be hop, skipping and jumping into the World Cup, but that will mean we somehow end up getting a point against Arsenal and we draw one each.
Oh, see, Paul's already jumping up to Arsenal. So you're saying 1-1 each on Arsenal?
Yeah. I don't know why, because I'm shy at predicting. So
I'm the one drinking whiskey, not you, Paul. My Leeds prediction, I don't see who's going to score goals. I do like the idea of it going to penalties, but I think it's just going to be a bunch of kids. I'm going to say 2-0 Leeds. I have just become such a Debbie Downer, man. Well, Paul already gave his pick for the Arsenal one. So Alex Winter, what is your Arsenal prediction?
Yeah, I mean, I wish that it was going to be something better. I think it's not going to be a rout. I think it's going to be 2-0 Arsenal. I don't see us scoring against Arsenal. Their defense has looked very good. But I'd be happy to be proven wrong, certainly.
Alex?
Yeah, I agree. I can't see Wolves scoring against this Arsenal squad. Saliba's incredible. Ben White's pretty good. Gabriel, the other Brazilian Gabriel, also very good. I'm gonna say was 4-0 even allowed on a Wolves podcast? Like,
I mean, they've given up 4 goals enough. I think it's allowed.
Arsenal just seems so overwhelming. I'm gonna go unless, like Alex mentioned earlier, they rotate the side, which I mean, every point is so crucial in this race when you're going against City. I don't know if you can. I'll go 4-0 with a Martinelli hat trick as he runs at Johnny, maybe, or who even knows at this point, down that flank.
Well, yeah, especially since it's the last game before the World Cup. I imagine most teams are going to go balls to the wall in this matchup. Paul, you said 1-1. You still sticking with that?
Yeah. Everything Alex just said is perfectly accurate. So
I think Wolves are going to score in this game. And I think Wolves are going to give up 3 goals. So I'm going to say 3-1 Arsenal. And then pray for 2 things. Lopetegui comes in, he gets their crap together, and Portugal's eliminated early from the World Cup. So we get some guys back into Lopetegui's little new preseason camp. Okay, Alex, any no stupid questions this week?
Just one other that we haven't already addressed, and that is from Todd DeWitt, guest of show. Which Wolves player do you think puts pineapple on pizza? Who wants to take this one first?
Well, number one, I don't know what the bad rap is with pineapple on pizza. I love pineapple on pizza. I get pepperoni and pineapple and jalapenos because the jalapeno and the pineapple are a good mix there because you still get a little bit of the spice with the jalapeno, but it's not overwhelming because you have the sweetness of the pineapple. So with that said, I think you have to look at somebody who's pretty confident in themselves and okay ordering it and thinking, well, people may laugh at me, but I'm this person, so they're not going to laugh at me anyways. I think Diego Costa gets pineapple on his pizza. I really do.
I mean, who's going to say something to him?
Exactly. No. Who's going to say something? I feel like that's more of a Latin type, even though he's from Spain, like, I don't know. I just got a feeling like he would have some pineapple. Paul?
My pineapple pizza eater is going to be eating it while he's playing hide and seek, because I could definitely see Leo Bonatini going for Hawaiian pizza.
Yeah, it's a tough one. Who I'd probably think. I mean, I'd probably go one of the younger ones in the squad. I'm just gonna go for a shout. Kem Campbell. Kem Campbell it seems like you want that sort of extra sweetness when you're the younger and wanting that, and I feel that he would be a pineapple on pizza guy and not care what others say at his age. So.
I gotta think it's an upset. Nobody said Podence, right?
Yeah. He was, I think he was my hide and seek pick.
Yeah.
I would I know Todd specifically singled out players. But my first thought was Bruno Lage because it's ingredients that just don't make sense together. And that seems like a very Bruno thing. Like, don't overthink it. Cheese, sauce, maybe some type of encased meat. That's really all you need. But
he'd justify it though.
He would.
And he'd go into considerable detail trying to justify it as well.
Yeah. He would break it down.
Guys, I really feel like the meat is better proportioned and only when there's pineapple with it.
Pineapple on pizza, like on the surface, feels like a Neves at center back kind of move. Like, just why? But that being said, I it is sometimes delicious, particularly from Domino's, like, which I think is blasphemy as someone who's currently sitting in Brooklyn. So after that,
I gotta imagine
I have a lot of people to hide from.
I gotta imagine they don't have many New York slices with pepperoni, right?
What's that, with pepperoni or pineapple?
I mean, with pineapple. With pineapple.
Oh yeah, no, it's not really done at most places. I would say a lot of the chain places maybe, but the real mom and pop pizzerias here, I don't know if you can walk in there and order. I think they might just say no, which is hilarious to just like order something and they'll be like, nope. But yeah. That's it for No Stupid Questions. As a reminder, you could always tweet them at us. The show's Twitter handle is the best place for that, at WLWpod, or email us at hello@wholelotofwolves.com.
And it brings this week's show to an end. So we will be back same time, same place next week. We're going to review the Leeds and the Arsenal games and see how we are positioned going into that World Cup break. So in the meantime, in Lopetegui we trust, and up the mighty Wolves.
Whole Lot of Wolves is self-funded, so if you're interested in sponsorship opportunities as a way to reach a niche audience, email hello@wholelotofwolves.com for our sponsor packages. Just want to make a contribution as a listener who enjoys the show? Then head to buymeacoffee.com/WLWpod. That's buymeacoffee.com/WLWpod. We greatly appreciate any contribution. Up the Wolves.